There is a war on God that is currently taking place, and by default, I think when you say God, people automatically refer to Jesus Christ immediately. I think that is because the majority of the population are Christians. So I purposely put up a different picture of a goddess because some religions actually, believe in multiple gods, goddesses, um, and that's their right. Everyone is entitled to worship who they like, um, and that's why we have freedom of religion. But by default, I think people generally, when you say God, I believe they tend to go immediately to Yeshua, which that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But there is also sort of an attack on God, I believe, because there's so many demonic influences in the media, the TV, the schools, the packaging, for example. I just got a package the other day from Amazon, and it had this like demonic, like angel devil type picture on it. It was really creepy. It was like some program. It says, I'm looking at it right now, Amazon Original Good Omens, and the M has like this, like devil tail on the end of it. It's just creepy, and I'm like, why can I not even order a simple package without having some demonic picture on it? And what it's going to really have to boil down to is we're just going to have to start boycotting all these companies, because if they don't stop with all this demonic crap and influences, we don't have to use these companies. But do you think it's by chance that they got everyone ordering on Amazon? Do you think that's coincidental? I don't think so. They purposely are trying to get people enslaved to these companies, so when things go down, and you can't get this at the store, you can't get that, what are you going to do? You're going to order from Amazon. What does Amazon do? They have a record of every single thing you purchase, so therefore you're basically like enslaved to this company. They know if they shut you off and you can't order from them anymore, then how are you going to get what you need? Everything is like a part of trying to make you enslaved. So the basic thing that people are going to need to start doing is just completely boycotting the companies that are acting inappropriately and either starting their own or just not using them at all. That's going to have to be the only way to become liberated from this mess. There's all kind of hectic stuff going on, but see, what's happening is the parents are a large part of the problem because the parents aren't shielding their children from these things. Not only that, they're not even picking up on these things. Secondly, they're out partying and thinking that they're supposed to live some lavish lifestyle because the brainwashed television told them that that's how everyone lives. And I also think that people seem to think Americans are rich and we're all living like these people that you see on TV. We don't live like that. We're all struggling just like everyone else. They brainwash everyone to think that Americans are all rich and this and that. No, we're all struggling, trying to figure out how we're going to pay our bills, trying to figure out. We don't live like that. That's like a tiny fraction of the population, and they're trying to make it look like yeah, all Americans are selfish, entitled, lazy pieces of trash that take trips, and no one I know is living like that. So, I mean, it's just hilarious that that's what's shown on the TV. So, um, there's really nothing you can do safely at this point in time. You have the parents out partying, not taking care of their children. The husband treating the wife like crap, so the wife is then treating all the children like crap and giving them cell phones to sit on because she don't want to take care of the children, and then the children are then by the fact that they're given a cell phone are now put into a demonic realm to where their mind can be controlled by demonic influences, and there's no parental supervision to take these demonic devices away from the children because the parents don't care about themselves, let alone their children. And what you have is just a sick, twisted domino effect of dysfunction that's happening. So, see, by giving your children these electronic devices, what you're doing is you're creating brain damage in the child. The child's brain is not even formed yet, and you're putting the child into a constant state of cognitive dissonance because the child doesn't even understand actual reality yet. You've now thrown in a device to put them in an alternate reality, and now they have to figure out two different realities, and so they're in a permanent state of cognitive dissonance, as we all are, because if you're merging or you're trying to balance two different realities, then that puts everyone into a state of cognitive dissonance. So you're either going to have to choose one reality or the other, or you're going to be like, kind of like schizophrenic because you now have two different realities that you're in. It's very bizarre. These are very bizarre times. I mean, this is like essentially putting everyone into a state of brain damage. It creates brain trauma. It doesn't do anything positive. Then you've got all these, overtly sexual and different things that the child is not even, they can't comprehend these things. They're too young. Their brain is not even formulated yet. And you've basically put the child into a toxic waste dump sewer, and you're trying to figure out why these children are committing suicide. They're completely traumatized. Their brain is not ready for this type of overwhelming information, violence, chaos. They cannot process it. It puts the brain into a constant state of overload. It's too much for adults to deal with, and yet you're giving this to a child? Putting them into a sea of demons on the internet, and then you act like you have no clue why the child committed suicide. The child has brain trauma because you gave them the device too early. They never should have had this device, and their brain cannot handle the information overload. So, is there a war on God? There's a war on God because everything is demonic, and people are putting their children into under demonic influence via their electronic devices. Then if you send them to the school, half of these schools don't even want God even mentioned in the school. They want the separation of church and state. Then school, that's a whole nother situation. At this point in time, I don't know if it's a good idea to put your child anywhere near a school because the Wi-Fi and the radiation and all the other health hazards that come along with that, in addition to the programming and the mind control, and it's not wholesome anymore. It's not like back in the day. Yeah, it was okay. They didn't have Wi-Fi and all these health hazards. Now, you really got to be monitoring every single thing they do. But the parents are so corrupted at this juncture that are we intoxified? Are we really going to expect that the parents can monitor the children? We've got children babysitting the parents half the time. I mean, it's just a disaster. It is a complete disaster. But, I mean, frankly, like, in terms of God and the church, if you were going to sell merchandise and the majority of the population are Christian, wouldn't you pick shirts that had like crosses or some kind of Christian pictures or representation of Christianity? If you were going to have a business selling things in the free market, you would have to cater to the population that is the majority, correct? Because, like, if I was to use, let's say, for example, Ben Shapiro's logic, he made some good and interesting points about he was discussing white privilege, and I actually like his commentary on that subject. And he made a comment which I thought was interesting. He said that I guess he was making a point in saying that people had claimed that white privilege exists because when you go to the store, the Band-Aids are kind of like a beige color that's more in tune with white people. And so he made the comment that, that's because of the free market and the majority of the people are white. So if a vendor wants to make money, they have to cater to who is the majority of the population. And I thought, well, yeah, that's true. That makes sense. I get that logic. That seems to make logical sense. So, okay, so then let's apply that to religion. If the majority of the population are Christian, don't you think that the free market, or anyone, buying and selling, trading, whatever, selling merchandise, they would have to cater to the bulk of the population, no? Otherwise, they would go out of business. They wouldn't have a business because no one would buy their shirts. Or if it's like, I don't know what percentage of people are Hindu, I have no idea. Let's just say like 5% of the population is Hindu. It's probably a lot more. I don't know. I have no idea what the numbers are. Let's just say, I'm just throwing this out there for an example. Let's just say 5% of the population is Hindu. So if you have a store, you would have like a tiny section of Hindu books and merchandise or shirts or whatever to cater to the tiny fraction of Hindu people that may walk into your store. And also it would depend on the location, okay? Because if you're in a location that is, more Hindus, or, you're in the US where maybe there's more Christians, you know what I'm saying? If you're online, it doesn't really matter because you have worldwide business, so then you go back to the original thing. If there are 5% Hindus, then you would have a smaller percentage of Hindu merchandise on, let's say, your website. You get where I'm going with this? You have to kind of like cater to whatever the market says, I would imagine, to whatever people are buying the most. That's what you would have to cater to. So the fact that there are controllers that seem to think that we should change our whole MO, we should change our whole ideology, because they seem to think that, their way goes and we all should just do what they say, and because they want it this way, that we then have to change and go along with that program. To using Ben Shapiro's own logic, that's not really how things work in a free market. You have to cater to what the majority of the people want, otherwise they're not going to buy your stuff. So if you're concerned about money, you're going to go out of business. There's a war on God. They don't want anyone. They want to get people away from God because they realize that God is strength. And if they don't believe in God themselves, they believe they themselves are God, like with this whole narcissism epidemic where people and individuals just are like, well, I'm my own God, I'll just make my own rules. I'll be God. I'll be transgender and I'll become my own God because I can just have a surgery and change my sex because I feel like it and I'm my own God. The sex that God, the higher power creator, gave me, that doesn't matter because I make my own rules and I'm my own God. This is complete and total and utter dysfunction. And that's actually one of the reasons why I really liked Ben Shapiro. I always liked Ben Shapiro. I liked his commentary. He was doing a lot of good. I liked that he was actually, he blasted all this transgender stuff. He had a funny clip with this transgender person, and it was just epically hilarious. He just really the guy, it was a woman, it was a male that changed into a woman, and the guy they had a clip of them on the news, and I think Shapiro called him like a sir or something, even though he transitioned into a woman. And it's just like the guy started physically threatening Shapiro. It was unbelievable, and it was all right on TV on camera. And I believe he did a lot of good with that because he exposed a lot of the dysfunction, and he had been exposing the dysfunction of, he doesn't believe in all the transgender stuff either. He believes in two sexes, which I really like, male and female. So anyway, I was getting to a point, but I started babbling. I do agree with a lot of Shapiro's viewpoints, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and I always have. But I don't agree with, he causes a lot of division and vitriol and stuff like that. So, there's nuances with everyone. There's things you may agree with that they do, and there's things that you might not agree with. So that's the situation. But, my point is this: we have freedom of choice. We have freedom of religion. Everyone is entitled, if they want to worship a female goddess, that is their prerogative. If they want to worship Allah, if they want to worship Hashem, if they want to worship Yeshua, I don't care who anyone worships. It's not my job to tell people what they should do and who they should worship. That's no one's job to do that. Everyone has freedom to worship who they want. But at this point in time, you need to very closely monitor your children, because they want to destroy people. They have all these demonic influences, and people are not careful about what they're giving their children. You can't try to give your child a healthy diet with healthy nutrients and then give them a phone which is completely demonic, and they can access pornography, they can access cyberbullying, they can access all type of overtly sexual and demonic influences. That's what you're giving your child. You don't know what they're going to get into on there, not to mention the radiation is horrendous to be anywhere near their brain or organs, which are still forming. So, I mean, it's like basically a lose-lose-lose situation to give your child an electronic device because you're lazy, you don't want to be a parent, you want to go out partying or do whatever with your friends, and you don't want to pay any attention to your child. That's a problem. Okay, so there's a major war on God right now. They don't want anyone having any form of God. And believe it or not, see, there's things that the controllers can't even control. And let's say, for example, there is a celestial body or something going on with the Earth's atmosphere, if there's going to be a pole shift, whatever. Even the controllers cannot control that. You understand what I'm saying? Which would lead them to believe that there is a power that is higher than even them. And that's why they have to hide things with the chemtrails, and they don't want people to know that God exists because they think that they are God. And if we know that there is some celestial body or something is going on out there in the atmosphere that they don't even have a full understanding of, and they cannot themselves control. Remember, narcissists are obsessed with control. And for them to acknowledge that a God exists would be a very challenge to their entire existence, because that would mean that they have zero control over anything, and that they themselves don't even know what to do or is happening in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, if something truly cataclysmic were going to happen, why on earth would you go down in a bunker? That would be the last place I would go, because if changes happen in the Earth's atmosphere, there's going to be an increase in flooding. Different things may happen, volcanoes, who knows, erupting, seawater's rising. Why would you go underground when you could be under the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, or you could be under some ocean? Why would you go underground? That seems like the worst place to be, because if you're covered in water, how are you going to get out? So I believe there are things taking place that even the controllers don't understand or have a full grasp of, and so that scares them. That scares them, because if there is a power that is higher than them, meaning God, which they don't want anyone to know or believe exists because they despise God, then it throws a whole monkey wrench in their brainwashing agenda, because then they don't know what's going on with whatever, if there's with the atmosphere. They don't know how to prepare for it fully. They have some idea, but I'm just saying, if if things have never happened before, you can't prepare for it. You don't know what exactly is going to happen. So, if you're a narcissist and you think you're a god, and all of a sudden, big God, big G comes along and says, hey, no, wait a minute, I'm actually God, and there is a higher power that you have to report to and answer to, and I can actually wipe you out in a heartbeat if I want to, then I mean, their whole existence then comes into question. Hey, wait a minute, I'm not as powerful as I thought I was. I'm not as omnipotent as I thought I was. If I was so godly and so, almighty and powerful, then why couldn't I stop these Earth's changes? Or why couldn't I, you know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of, makes them call into question how godly and how powerful they really are. Because they have to answer to a larger God, and they don't want to have to face that reality.